Okay, what's up everybody? So, welcome to the addendum video that I'm going to be doing. Wow. First off, welcome to my channel. If you are new to the channel, please go and watch the part 1 of this video. It should be labeled pretty much the same title, just not have addendum on it. This is my entertainment industry series, so please go and watch some of the other videos. The earliest videos are basically building up a vocabulary between you and I so that we can have this same sort of vocabulary through and through as we talk about other film, television, and other forms of entertainment through the industry, okay? I wanted to make an addendum to the first cycle video, technically the second cycle video, the cycle video in which I talk about the generational cycle as it pertains to truth, reality, and beauty. As I have said before, everything is cyclical and you can't break the cycle because the cycle is a circle and a circle is perfect. So in that video, I tried to introduce you all to the generational cycle that we are currently on. And again, this is something that just, it happens all the time over and over and over again. I told you guys that the cycle was, as it goes right now, is that the traditionalists made essentially a fake world for their children, baby boomers, to grow up in. And so what the baby boomers did is that they started, and as they grew up, as they finally reached adulthood, a lot of them looked around and they realized this is fake. This is a fake world. This isn't a fully truthful world. It isn't a fully beautiful world, so to speak. So the next thing that they do, or excuse me, the next generation comes along, Gen Xers, they start questioning, well, what is beauty? What is truth? What is reality? So they build off the baby boomers' first statement and they turn that into a question, which then allows them to continue through life looking constantly for answers. Then we next have the millennials. The millennials come along and they push that question even further by saying, does truth, does reality, does beauty even exist? And they're not even sure if there is such a thing as natural beauty in this world, as real truth, as natural truth in this world. And so then the final 1 or 2 generations, and again, this can be double generational, and I'll tell you the reason why a little bit later in this video. Gen Zers and Gen Alpha, they come along and they determine, they are the ones to finally answer the question, and they answer it for themselves. They determine that no, true beauty or real beauty or truth and reality don't actually exist. They aren't a natural thing in this world. Therefore, we must create those things. We must make essentially an artificial or fake version of those things. So Gen Zers come onto the scene and they immediately start to embrace the fake. As I say, Gen Zers and potentially alphas are the ones who are going to embrace the fakeness. And let me say again, I cannot stress this enough. This is not one specific generation's fault, okay? It is not their fault that they are embracing fakeness. It is completely just part of the system. It's part of the cycle. So they immediately start embracing fake. They are born into a world which already has adopted a certain level of fakeness, right? So the earliest born Gen Zers are born in the late 90s. Mind you, they can't remember any of this stuff, right? They are born into a world that is discussing certain sexual habits openly now, which was never a thing. They're born into a world in which pornography has exploded online. They are born into a world in which you could basically click a few buttons here and there and get virtually anything that you want online in a matter of a couple of days. They hear a whole lot of ruckus, a whole lot of talk from their older brothers and sisters in millennials, as well as from their parents, which, yeah, there are still some later born baby boomers that have Gen Z children, but then they also hear it from Gen Xers as well, who are predominantly their parents. They hear that they are born into a world which seems to have more financial disparity and more financial potential calamity than it ever has before, or at least than it has for the last 3 generations, for baby boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials. They find it incredibly difficult to rectify that idea with what they're hearing from their baby boomer, either parents or grandparents, who say that so long as you get a good education and a good job, you'll be fine. Well, the problem is is that when they look around, they no longer know what a good education is, mainly because the jobs that some of the millennials have gotten and that they see millennials working now are not good jobs, even though the millennials are the most well-educated generation that we've ever had in history. So they're looking around and they're saying, well, these people don't have good jobs, so then what is a good job? And so what happens then is that they start to realize very soon, they realize almost immediately that the world that they live in is screwed and that it needs to be fixed incredibly badly. It's not the exact same as what Gen Xers do or what they realize. Gen Zers realize it on a different level, okay? What they realize is that they essentially are going to have to remake the world, but they don't fully know how they want to do that or how it should be done. They just know that they have to remake the world. Here's where the dysfunction or the discrepancy comes in. Because Gen Zers realize that the world is messed up so early on in their maturation process, they then start to think and believe that they have had to grow up way faster than other generations. Unfortunately, that's not true. Gen X still holds the title as the generation that had to grow up the fastest. Next, it was most likely baby boomers and then millennials. Gen Zers literally don't have to grow up that fast, but they feel like they do, which is honestly one of the first big parts of phoniness or fakeness that they accept. That they think, again, that well, we've had to grow up and mature faster, at least faster than millennials. It's not true. It's fake. They start to adopt more fake things throughout their maturation process. I really don't even or shouldn't have to talk about almost anything, any of the fake things that they adopt and that they proliferate in their journey to adulthood and to becoming productive members of society. We know all the things, like you can go onto almost any political website or video and they'll be talking something about whether it's cancel culture, use of pronouns, in college indoctrination, whether it's from the right or from the left, whether it's political or not, whatever. Those are the things that they start to adopt, and they're trying to create a society that essentially, again, did not exist before they came along. What is the most interesting thing is that in creating this new fake society, the older generations start to look at them and say, well, you can't do that because that's not what reality is. That's not how the world works. Problem with that is that, and again, I'm not absolving myself. I'm guilty of it too, looking at the younger generation and saying, I don't understand why you do this, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. I want to consider myself in touch a little bit with that generation, a little bit more than maybe people my age. Like I said, I'm over 30, but I don't know. I want to consider myself that because I know how important it is to be in touch with younger generations if you're going to be in Hollywood. But again, the reason as to why the judgment from the older generations does not ring true or does not land is because, again, the older generations they have some good solid points. However, they are judging them on an old system, which the new generation is trying to completely get rid of. So it's like judging and or refereeing a current NBA game on the 1950s NBA rules. Most people should know that the adoption of the three-pointer into the professional game revolutionized basketball, and it has given us, for better or for worse, it has given us the game that we have right now today. To take that away and go back to 1950s era basketball in which there was no three-pointer, it would be a night and day type of difference for the current stars and for how teams run themselves. Most interesting, well, not most interesting, just one of the interesting things about the adoption of fakeness, though, for this generation is that as far as the art and entertainment goes, number one, they tend to treat their celebrities in the same way that millennials do. It's not necessarily that they hate them, though, but they definitely want them to be the same way that like 1950s kids were supposed to be treated. Like celebrities are supposed to be seen but not really heard. One of the things that they love saying about celebrities, and it's weirdly a brag or a flex if your favorite celebrity is this way, is that they want their celebrities to be low key. They don't bother anybody. They just sit and mind their own business. Like that's a thing that they want from their celebrities, but they also want their celebrities to kind of be in some ways characterless, but very beautiful. And that is also one of the interesting things about some of the art and entertainment that has come out in the last decade or so. Even though, yes, I know that it is not being made by Gen Zers, it is being made for some Gen Zers in some ways. And also, you have to remember that, how did I word this last time? The generation that is the newest adults in the current era of people who are alive, whatever their main mentality is what almost the entirety of society will adopt. Gen Zers have a mentality of embracing fakeness, of creating something that is inauthentic and then calling it authentic and calling it respectful and respectable. So basically all of the world, all of society, all the civilizations kind of have to follow in line, in lockstep with that, even if they are of a different generation that thinks differently. They have to follow in that same sort of way, kind of allowing for the youth to lead. So again, what you get with this fake mentality is that you get a lot of what I call empty movies, to where, or empty movies or empty television shows. There is something about them that you watch them and they're definitely not great, but you also don't really want to say that they're bad, and you kind of don't even want to say that they're good either. They just sort of exist. I also call them bump along movies. You watch it and weirdly enough not feel anything or not be affected by the story in almost any way, shape, or form. The story just sort of bumps along for however long it plays, for an hour and a half, for 2 hours, and once it's done, you go, oh, that was okay. What else is on? You get a lot of movies like that, to where, yeah, they don't really hit on anything. They don't really do anything. They don't really accomplish almost anything. They just sort of exist to be there, to be content that you would watch. And of course, you have the rise of the content creator. And so of course, you can see this in multiple eras and in multiple things. The weirdest part is that, again, in a similar way to how some of them have adopted this idea that they have had to grow up too fast, they also adopt this idea that they are in vehement pursuit for and of truth or of realness. So they try to do things that seem super authentic, but the problem is that the way in which they ultimately accomplish these goals is through a kind of inauthentic way. One of the biggest and best examples of that is not even in a movie currently, but is in an app. The app is called Be Real. Now, I don't know if you've heard of it. It is slowly gaining popularity with Gen Zers. And what it is that it's almost, I know I'm going to explain this badly. I've only ever used it once. But basically what it is that it's almost like a timer of sorts, to where, from what I can remember, although I'm not sure, but from what I can remember, you can set it to where you have like it could be your own family or friend group, or you can have it on like a world thing to where you can just sort of see everybody's stuff. But what it is basically is that at certain times of the day, and you never really know what time it's going to be, what time they're going to say. Although I do believe that they have, certain like time zone restrictions and things in place so that you're not doing something like in the middle of the night. The app will basically go off and it'll like send you some sort of alert that says, get on right now and record whatever it is that you're doing. Let me be very clear. I am not trying to go after the app. I know what their intention is, and it's an okay intention, right? They have some fairly decent intentions. Basically what the app is trying to do is that it is trying to cut down on all of the editing and artificiality of some of the other forms of social media like TikTok and Instagram, where you can edit your stuff and you can have videos and have them sit for days or weeks on end and, go back and fix things and make sure that they're absolutely perfect. Instead, it makes you stream live, and it makes you stream live whatever it is that you are currently doing when it tells you to get onto the app. The problem with that is that in and of itself, it is inherently false or inherently fake. Two of the things that the app does, and it does other things as far as like the meaning behind it, how Gen Z is essentially the messaging that they're getting. The first thing is that It is basically saying that social media is kind of the only way, the only real or authentic way these days that you can actually be social in this world. Of course, that is a terrible message, terrible idea to be giving them, but that kind of is one of the messages that they are ultimately getting from using the app. The other, another one of the messages that they're getting, and like I said, they are getting others, but another one of the messages that they're getting is that authenticity or realness or truth or natural beauty are all things that need to be forced out of someone. They are not something that naturally occur or that naturally exposed to, but they need to be forced out of a person in order to actually be exposed. If you do want to be an active user, it makes you jump onto the app whenever the app says that you should be on it. So that's also another thing, is that it uses your time in a very strange way. Even though people should be trying to, I guess, break away from social media, in a weird way, it actually makes you even more of, I don't really want to say a slave, but it kind of does make you a slave more to social media than almost any other thing. Because again, you can hop onto Instagram at any time that you want to, and also hop off at any time that you want to. This one, you are kind of waiting around for most of, if not all of your day, just to get onto it. Its intentions seem to be trying to make social media both more authentic and less addictive. In a weird way, it's doing the opposite of both. So then what is Gen Z's ultimately? I don't have all the mentalities for Gen Z yet because they haven't been around long enough yet. You know, no Gen Zers are 30 yet, but they will most certainly show a few more changes to the standard thought processes that baby boomers and Gen Xers before them have had, and millennials as well. But one of the things that they are essentially going to be tasked with, like I said, is rebuilding the world in their own fake or phony image, in the same way that traditionalists did specifically for their baby boomer children. The problem here is going to set in with how they do it and in which order. So there are two things that need to happen for them. They need to adopt both of the things that Gen Xers and millennials have done, but they need to be proficient at both of them, and they need to do them in a particular order. So they need to be as introspective and as self-analytical without being self-loathing, and that's the thing that they're going to struggle with the most. That's what they're struggling with now. Self-analyzing without being self-loathing, that's the thing that they need to do first. They then need to do second, they need to be systems critical. And so they need to be able to analyze the systems around them that exist so that they can properly break them down and rebuild them in a way that is going to be more conducive, not only for themselves, but for future generations. And this is finally where alphas come in, because if Gen Z does those two things in the incorrect order, then alphas will have to ultimately step up and do them in the correct order, or the cycle is going to create a world in which the cycle is even shorter, I guess you can say. Yeah, let's just go with that. It's getting late, so I kind of want to end this thing. But basically what it is, an example, is that Gen Zers, let's say they step up. And again, these are the old rules from the old system that we as baby boomers, millennials, and Gen Xers know, okay? So you can't technically judge them off of these rules, even though I know you want to. But let's say that a Gen Zer grows up and they go to college. And so the first thing that they do is that they get to a professor who they don't like because the professor is saying things that are offensive to them. If they start instead by analyzing and critiquing the system, then what they're going to do is that they're going to realize that or what they're going to think that the professor is overly critical, that he's ancient, that he's stupid, that he's offensive, that he has some sort of bigotry in him, and thusly they're going to try to cancel him, get rid of him, kick him out, etc., etc. That, unfortunately, is not the right thing to do yet. What they need to do first is that they need to analyze their own biases, self-analyze just like millennials do, and come in and say, okay, am I feeling offended because maybe I am overly sensitive, maybe I am anxious, maybe I am self-loathing, maybe I am have some sort of self-hatred, maybe I feel attacked. Why do I feel attacked? Again, they have to go through this process of looking at themselves and then figuring out how to make themselves stronger so that they don't feel that kind of sense of attack. But then though, once they have leveled up essentially like a video game and made themselves stronger, then they can go back to the actual system and analyze the system for what it is. So if they are strong, but again, if they are strong, they have a certain level of strength to them, but they still find that the professor is offensive in a way that is not conducive to good learning for either them or for their peers, then that's when they can say, okay, we need to tear this system down because it is not going to work for us. That is exactly the same thing that traditionalists did when they were creating their phony society, and that is what is going to be required of Gen Zers to create their new fake society as well, okay? So I think that we are going to end it there for right now. I have been talking for a very long time. It's been hours, so I don't have a sign off, everybody. So while I don't have an official sign off yet, I guess I should do the whole please like, comment, share, and if you so desire and you want to see more, subscribe. But more importantly, I will ask that you please go and purchase one of my books. They are mostly ebooks, and pretty much they are all under $10. See if any of my work is actually any good, if it lives up to any of the things that I'm talking about here on my channel, specifically with the entertainment industry videos. So please go purchase my books. All of my links are down below. Thank you.